Today I want to talk about DeMarvion Overshown, Maya Moore, Mike Gundy, Washington, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You gotta help me with that corner shit.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, I want to talk about a number of issues that have come up over the course of the summer in light of the COVID, Black Lives Matter, and athletes are really stepping up and responding in ways that demonstrate just how powerful they can be when they are striving to try to change the world around them. We'll start with the good news, bad news, good news, depending on who you want to talk to. So let's start with this. Last night, I was a little upset because Mike Holder and Burns Hargis sent out a statement saying that they did not see any further investigation needed or racism in Mike Gundy's program, and they felt like this is the best possible outcome for everybody as Mike Gundy is doing a better job of listening to his players, and that was really the disconnect, was the personal relationships that he had not fostered with his players. The reason I was disappointed with that is because of the timing of it. It drops at 8:30 p.m. It also mentioned no measure of suspension and no measure of any kind of real action that was on the part of Mike Gundy, where he was actually having to show those positive changes that he said he was going to make. All we have is word of mouth. All we have is I'm having conversations with my players. This is even after the Black Alumni Association at Oklahoma State, Black Alumni Society at Oklahoma State, sent 10 actionable requests and recommendations that I thought that any company or public entity would already be following to help, because they were so embarrassed by how Mike Gundy had gone through this. I also think that there was some real problems with how Mike Gundy first operated with this, because in his first two apologies, he did not do what he probably should have done at jump, which is what he did with SVP, which is say that he was a dumbass, because we all can believe that Mike Gundy would make that sort of mistake. And that's not to talk about his intellect so much as to say that falls in line with what we know about Mike Gundy, about him charging forward and being good at his job in one way or another because of his confidence that borders on arrogance and what really he represents for Oklahoma State. And then I wake up in the morning to find out during the Zoom call with Mike Holder that Mike Gundy had offered up $1 million pay cut in his annual salary, which is not a small thing. It's a quarter of his salary, and especially at this time during the COVID. Putting aside how much money he has made since being the head coach at Oklahoma State since 2005, also found out that his 5-year contract, which has a rolling clause in it, has been shortened to 4 years, which means that if they just walk that contract out and coach the rest of it, he would retire 20 years after having been hired, meaning 20 years of being head coach at Oklahoma State, and his son, Gunner, who is going to be a true freshman quarterback for him, walk-on, would be graduating from Oklahoma State University. I think that his giving that $1 million back in response to how his players felt about him wearing that shirt, notably Chuba Hubbard, Amen Ogbongbemiga, Tylan Wallace, is not a small gesture. And that is the kind of gesture that lets me know that he is trying. I'm not prepared to say that this is going to make Mike Gundy a better person, but I like to think that it would. Prove me wrong. I'm daring you, Mike. And I would really love to see that. The other part about this that I found to be wildly upsetting is how this became an issue of race when it was an issue of accountability that was backlit by race, right? So Jeff Goodman goes on the defense after Dan Wolken was stupid about how he tried to take down Burns Hargis and Mike Holder by saying Mike Holder hired a black coach for his men's basketball team, Mike Boynton. And I'm going, okay, now point to the other black coaches at Oklahoma State, because now we're talking about his black friend. And that's probably my biggest issue with how that was talked about to begin with, right? Is let's put that in a different box of accountability as opposed to a box of race. The other thing that was good that I thought was really interesting is that the University of Texas football players are not letting up, right? We have guys like DeMarvion Overshown, who has decided that he's going to sit out the season until he got some things, or Texas decided to actually act on the recommendations that he and other players had put before them, like don't want to sing the eyes of Texas anymore, like a new fight song. We'd like to see some more minority statues around campus. We would like to see some of the more racist men who have been hoisted up by the University of Texas taken down. And if you know anything about the University of Texas, you know that it has been really dealing with its racist past for some time now. But let's read his statement real quick that he posted to Twitter, which he titled, "Until We Are One." First off, I will like to start by saying that I have a lot of love for my teammates, coaches, and the University of Texas. As most of you know, the student athletes put out a statement 3 weeks ago demanding some changes that are long overdue. We have been told that things are being done behind closed doors, but have yet to see any changes. We are constantly preached urgency throughout the program, and I feel that the university should be held to the same standard. I watched WNBA All-Star Maya Moore sit out the whole year because of something that meant so much to her. With that being said, until real action is taken and changes are made, I will be sitting out all of team activities. I will support my team in whatever they do, but this is something I'm very passionate about, and I can not continue to perform for a program that doesn't show me the same love and support I do for them. It's a powerful stance. It's a powerful statement. He joins Brendan Eagles, who said probably not going to play football if this is what it's going to be. Caden Stearns has been continuing to lead the charge about, hey, we're not going to go to donor events. We're not going to host any recruits when they come to campus until we see some change here. Chris Del Conte has responded to guys like Jawan Mitchell, who said, I don't feel comfortable playing at the University of Texas, saying, look, I understand. We're all frustrated. We're all trying to deal with this, but it's all coming to a head because of what the University of Texas has been, particularly with its football program. We're talking about Ohio State having integrated its football program in 1891, Michigan in 1890. We have an All-American defensive end in Bill Bell at Ohio State in the 1920s. At Oklahoma, Prentice Gott is the first black player that ever varsity lettered for Oklahoma, and that's 1956. You got to go to 1970 before you get the first black player at the University of Texas in Julius Whittier. And Texas has the dubious honor of being the last all-white national champion in 1969, at a time when quite literally, I think Prairie View A&M, Grambling, and Tennessee State, along with FAMU, probably could have given Texas a run for their money or even beat the brakes off of them, depending on how you feel about those football teams and what kind of talent came out of those football teams to the AFL and eventually the NFL. But his reference to Maya Moore, I think, rings so true because Maya Moore is a superhero. She took off a year from being one of the best basketball players in the world to try to help get this man's 50-year sentence overturned because she had met him through prison ministry in 2007 and was finding out the facts of his case. And she got to watch him walk out of prison a couple of days ago when he had been there for 20 plus years, convicted as an 18-year-old wrongfully. And she used her position and she used her stature as an athlete in this society for change. And I could see that throughout. Now we're talking about the Washington team changing its name, Tulsa Union. You're on deck. But now we have had Dan Snyder actually acknowledge we have to review the name. And we know that he's never wanted to change the name. That's not new. We also know that FedEx going up to him and saying, hey, look, we'd like you to change the name is the people that have their name on the field of sponsorship. It's FedEx Field. We've had Nike stop selling Washington stuff on their website. You had companies that are deciding, no, we have voices here because we have money here. And if we turn off the money, they will listen to us about these things that affect so many different people. And while that nickname does not really ring out for some, it rings out for enough people that it's offensive. Okay? Just like we don't call black folks colored anymore because it's offensive. You retire these things in your vocabulary because the nature of language is changeable. There are words that were used when William Shakespeare was writing that we don't use anymore. We don't even use the vernacular anymore because language is whatever society says it is. And if there are enough people in society that find it offensive, you don't say it. Like cursing on this channel. If I use the F word on this channel or the B word on this channel, I might as well be saying the N word to some of y'all. Just like if you use that word with me, I would be irate. And that word exists for some people. And for me, quite honestly, who wants to support them in a world of no. It's in the world of no. And as long as it's in the world of no and you have the power to change that, you should change that. And that's what this gets back around to. And that's why I led with Mike Gundy, who is given the first real indication of the thing that we know that matters a lot to him, money, that he is going to be about this and that he does want his reputation to change on these subjects. I also found it was interesting. Mike Holder said that he never thought it was worth addressing Alfred Williams about his allegation of 30 years that Mike Gundy used the N-word to him and other players, though he was supported by another player at the time. I understand why you wouldn't want to bring that up. I understand this idea of cancel culture. I also understand that the man has been adamant that this was done and that he wanted an apology from Mike Gundy. I don't think we're going to get an apology from Mike Gundy, but we did get him to say, I'm going to offer up $1 million. That has nothing to do with COVID. Had nothing to do with COVID-19, and Mike Holder is adamant that it was his, that it was his idea. I also know that Mike Holder was upset, but not so upset that he could go ahead and just fire Mike Gundy, which for many of you would say that he shows restraint. And I can get all the way how you're getting there. All right. Yell at me in the comments. Deuces.